Welcome back to Watch the Booker Man and to episode number 104 of Paul Heyman's TNA, and this is the go-home show to No Surrender, the final week of the Bound for Glory Tag Team Series in terms of the two blocks. We then go into the semi-finals and the final at No Surrender, but we begin with the commentators introducing the show and a video package which recaps the events of the Bound for Glory Tag Team Series Block B so far, which has left 3 teams in with the chance of qualifying to No Surrender's Final 4. Beer Money and the Motor City Machine Guns lead the way on 7 points, with LAX just a point behind on 0 points and 3 points respectively. The Young Bucks and Cabana and Eric Young are already eliminated. Cabana and Generico will still have a role to play in this, however, as Beer Money need 1 point at least to confirm qualification on Evolve. But first, we'll see probably the most important match remaining in this entire series as LAX face Motor City Machine Guns, and we're going straight into that. I'm expecting after recent weeks this to be a really good match, and it delivers. An 8-tier is an excellent way to start off any episode of Impact. If the main event can match or better this, and it's the Kings of Wrestling v WGTT, so there's a good chance it's going to get a really good rating and we get a decent segment. We could be keeping on that little run we've got of 80 plus rated shows. It's actually the pay-per-view itself, No Surrender, that I'm more worried about not reaching that. But you see on screen agony for LAX in the very last moment. Hernandez has Shelly up for a border toss. When the bell rings, the 15-minute time limit has expired. Motor City Machine Guns move into first place on 8 points. LAX join Beer Money on 7 points, but it's out of their hands now. They need Cabana and Eric Young to defeat Beer Money on Evolve, something that doesn't seem that likely, and if that does happen, there'll be a pre-show match on No Surrender with Beer Money versus LAX taking place. So even if Beer Money are defeated, LAX would then have to defeat them before going on to potentially 2 other matches. So the deck absolutely stacked against LAX, and if they'd just been maybe 10 seconds quicker, Hernandez may have picked up the victory and they would have secured their place. So there is a bizarre atmosphere as the bell rings. The team who are in control are obviously less than happy. LAX thought they had the match won. Motor City Machine Guns have secured their qualification. They're relieved to have avoided defeat, but it doesn't feel like a time for celebration for them. The Motor City Machine Guns have scraped through by the skin of their teeth. That has to be said. There is no denying that fact. LAX, like I said, relying on the pointless Colt Cabana and Eric Young. That's not an insult. I mean, they've got 0 points in the series so far. That match is going to happen on Evolve, so it does mean that there is still stakes going into the final match of this series, a stark contrast to Block A. If this was to happen, the commentators confirm that tiebreaker they'd face before the pay-per-view goes on air, and the winner of that match would go on to face first in Block A. We then get another recap, this time of Evolve, when Samoa Joe assisted Jay Lethal in defeating Desmond Wolfe to become the new Evolve champion. We then see Jay Lethal with his title, grinning from ear to ear. He's in the most positive mood that we've seen in months. I'd argue probably since last Bound for Glory. Everything has gone badly for him. He snapped, we had the heel turn, and now he is back where he needs to be with a title over his shoulder, and he says that he beat Desmond Wolfe 2 times in a row. How's that for earning the title? Wolfe's point was that Jay Lethal wasn't just going to get given a title shot, and to be fair, Lethal has, albeit in very, very tainted fashion, defeated Wolfe twice. JB then looks to ask about Samoa Joe's involvement, and if their conversation prior to the match had anything to do with him joining the cause of CM Punk, Joe and the New Age of Honor. Jay Lethal is offended by this line of questioning. As reasonable as it is for us to want to know the answer to this, he says tonight is a night of celebration. On Evolve, he's going to talk in depth about his latest achievement and nothing else. He then storms off, not happy with JB's questions, Maria going alongside him, and Lethal clearly avoiding that question that does need to be answered. Why did Joe get involved? What was in it for him? Of course, he did have his little run-in with Desmond Wolfe, but we do think there is probably a little bit more to this. Tara then comes to the ring, and despite getting the Knockouts Championship shot that she has been after, she said it's the only thing left in her career. That's her only ambition at the moment, to get another chance at becoming the Knockouts Champion. That said, she's unhappy that Madison Rayne will also be involved, and that match will be a 3-way. out from the back. Madison Rayne tells Tara that she is lucky to be even considered for a shot, so she better shut her mouth and stop drawing attention to herself before somebody realises the mistake that's been made. Madison Rayne is going to make Mickie James pay for a mistake of her own on Sunday. That mistake was talking Tara out of retirement. This place would be so much better if Tara had just hung up the boots when she intended to. As the bickering continues, Mickie James comes out and tells them to both be quiet. In response, Madison Rayne and Tara simultaneously decide to jump the Knockouts champion. With the attack ongoing, Madison Rayne takes a step back. Tara is still focused on Mickie, and Madison is able to put on her loaded glove, grab Tara and hit her with the Knockouts punch. With both of her pay-per-view opponents down in the ring, Madison Rayne stands tall. Tara and Mickie, all the history they have, down on the canvas, and one of these three women will walk into Bound for Glory as our Knockouts champion. Returning from the break to the second match of the night, the Beautiful People defeat Mia Yim and Santana Garrett in 4 minutes and 1 second. Angelina Love getting the pinfall on Mia Yim following a makeover. As the game says, an extremely short match, one-sided. We rated it on iCandy just because it'd get a better rating, and the point is just to get the Beautiful People on screen with a dominant victory before they have something to say, taking a microphone after a straightforward win. Angelina Love says that there simply isn't another Knockouts tag team on their level, and at the same time, the men's tag team champions are getting the night off. They spoke to Paul Heyman, and they don't have to defend their Knockouts tag team championships on Sunday either. That means that they are confirmed to go into Bound for Glory as the Knockouts tag team champions, and Angelina Love says that that is the stage that they deserve. They spoke to Paul Heyman and convinced him instead to feature a Beautiful People show pay-per-view special instead. She knows that everybody would rush out to buy that, and Heyman instantly agreed. He's even set up a secret special guest for them. Love admits that she's not too pleased that they'll also be kept in the dark until Sunday, but insists that fans are not going to want to miss this at No Surrender. Paul Heyman has promised them a huge guest, and she's sure that that's exactly what they're going to get. In the back, Tyler Black and Jimmy Jacobs address El Generico's return last week, where the masked competitor looked to set his sights on the X Division Champions title. Black says that he usually doesn't agree with handing out titles to just anybody, but given that he's beaten El Generico before, he's happy to face him at No Surrender. It has to be pointed out that Generico did come very close to defeating Tyler Black, and it was Jimmy Jacobs getting involved that actually stopped him from picking up the upset those months ago. Jimmy Jacobs adds that for all his talent and ability, El Generico will always be a joke. Black beat one gimmick wrestler last week in Shark Boy, and this Sunday he's going to put Generico back on the injured list. He might also tear his mask off so we never have to see that joke again. Good work from both of them, and it advances the X Division Championship storyline. We end the first hour with Roderick Strong being defeated by Samoa Joe. It's a clean win, to be fair, with a muscle buster ahead of his match this Sunday with the World Heavyweight Champion Bryan Danielson, and it seems to be something I've noticed a few times. Probably just bad luck, but Roderick Strong doesn't seem to click with quite a few people on our roster. Both put in decent performances. It's an okay match, but we would have expected much better from these two. Having picked up the win with the Muscle Buster, as we said, Samoa Joe looks to inflict further damage on Roderick Strong by locking in the Coquina Clutch. Before he can, however, he is confronted as the World Heavyweight Champion comes down from the back. Bryan Danielson goes face to face with Samoa Joe, who rolls out the ring and grabs the stolen Ring of Honor World Championship before returning back to the ring, raising it high and indicating that he will take the TNA World Championship on Sunday as well. Bryan Danielson grabs a microphone from ringside in response and says that if Samoa Joe has any self-respect left, he'll return that title and not bring it with him on Sunday. This isn't about Ring of Honor versus TNA or the New Age of Honor versus anybody. No Surrender is about two of the best wrestlers in the world going one-on-one. This is about Bryan Danielson and Samoa Joe. In amidst all the crap of the last few months, Samoa Joe has proved that he's still a killer, but for some reason he wants to carry CM Punk's bags. That's not what Bryan wants at the pay-per-view. He wants the Samoan submission machine. He wants to hear the people shout, "Joe is gonna kill you," before he kicks his head in. So Bryan Danielson trying to bring something different out of Samoa Joe. We know how much Bryan appreciates competition, and he doesn't want to see this shell of Samoa Joe that we've seen doing the bidding of somebody else. He is one of the best in the world without question, and he needs to bring that on Sunday, advancing storylines with a very good segment, getting the crowd hotter, and really happy with that as the final build to our World Heavyweight Championship match. We then open with another video package that looks at the arrival of the Briscoes in TNA, who had finally seen enough from the New Age of Honor. They weren't part of this Ring of Honor invasion, or however you want to call it, and they debuted to actually halt an attack on the Icon and the Enigma, with the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions setting themselves up in opposition to that group of Ring of Honor tag teams. They took particular issue with the American Wolves, but also ANX and Future Shock, because those teams have claimed to represent the ROH tag team division without reaching out to the one team who hold the company's championships, who've held them more than anybody else, and who are quite simply synonymous with tag team wrestling in Ring of Honor. And we're going to see them debut inside a TNA ring tonight. Not that good of a match, I didn't expect it to be, but Mark and Jay with 52 and 53 for a debut of guys who aren't that over, that's quite encouraging. Definitely see that there's potential there. When you see some people debut with very, very low ratings, it can immediately put me off pushing them in a way, because I just think it's going to be too hard to go through with the months that it's going to take to get them to a decent level. With Jay and Mark, I think a few victories, they'll be in their 60s and will be away from there. The New Age with Black, Hero and Castagnoli showed how quickly, with good booking, you can get people up there, and that simply means that my challenge is to make sure that the Briscoes are pushed as strongly as they possibly can be, and it's a good start as they decisively defeat Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly in 7 minutes and 47, Jay pinning Kyle following a Briscoe device. A good win for them, and they stand tall. The commentator's putting over what we just seen in that match, a raw and unrefined team, not like many other teams you'll see in TNA or anywhere else. A lot of great in-ring technicians in this division. The Briscoes bring something very different. Their first time in a TNA ring has shown why they are so highly regarded as a duo, and Jay sends a message to the American Wolves while in the ring. He struggles when off script, but it's an okay segment again. They've got the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships, and they're waiting for the American Wolves or any team from the New Age of Honor to come and prove them wrong when they say they are the best tag team in the world today. A fired up Samoa Joe is then cutting a promo from the locker room of the New Age of Honor, responding to Bryan Danielson's words from earlier, and he doesn't do a good job. Losing heat to two storylines is a disappointment, as he fails basically when not following a script. Laying down the ROH World title on a bench, Joe says that Bryan is right. This isn't about anybody but them, and on Sunday he's going to prove he's a better man, a better fighter, and a better champion than Bryan Danielson. It seems like Bryan has forgotten where he came from and which one of them dominated the landscape when they both called Ring of Honor home. Joe has woken from the slumber of his last 4 years in this company, and at No Surrender, he's taking the TNA World Championship. Walking in from the side, CM Punk approaches Samoa Joe and looks to calm him down a little bit. He feels that maybe in getting fired up, he's taking his eye off the ball. Particularly, Punk reminds him that there is a bigger picture at play. Samoa Joe nods his head. That bigger picture is taking Danielson's head off and bringing the TNA World Heavyweight Championship to them. So in Joe's mind, he's killing two birds with one stone this Sunday. He's going to get the title. He's going to do it for all the individual reasons, but it will also strengthen the cause of the New Age of Honor. The fifth match of the night is the one we promoted for a couple of weeks now. Amazing Red's cousin Rosita has been stalked by Abyss and James Mitchell, and he's looking to defend her. He's asked everybody else to keep out of this. This is a family matter, but really he probably could have done with some help. We get a lot of his fast-paced moves. This is a no DQ, falls count anywhere match, so we want to incorporate a lot of Amazing Red's crazy spots into it, dive into the outside on Abyss, but eventually it's just too much in the wheelhouse of Abyss, really. He knows how to use weapons. He knows how to win this type of match. And with a chokeslam on the stage, he wins in 9 minutes and 42. We booked this as a mayhem match, a decisive finish, and he gets the crowd buzzing. Red's gimmick getting stale, so something to take note of there, but we gain heat with a good match. While it's not really building anything to the pay-per-view, I do want to keep our week-to-week stuff going. Also, while promoting this upcoming pay-per-view, Abyss stands over Amazing Red, following a brutal conclusion to their Anything Goes match. I do think this would be a really good styles clash. Amazing Red doing the fly-in, but ultimately being overpowered by Abyss. A sadistic smirk spreads across the face of the monster as Father James Mitchell joins him on the ramp. Amazing Red has to be seen to by medical personnel. He's really hurt. He was chokeslammed on that steel stage and he doesn't seem to know where he is once he comes round. Abyss and Father James Mitchell then head up the ramp, with concern for Rosita heightened, with no Amazing Red here to protect her. The commentators speak about how volatile the environment in TNA is currently, with nobody safe as the road to Bound for Glory intensifies. That's what we want to put over. We are building to pay-per-views, we are building to Bound for Glory, but there is still so much incredible action, chaotic moments happening on the week-to-week impacts, with No Surrender this Sunday. We know that the heat on the build to Bound for Glory is going to be turned up to another level, and we've got CM Punk speaking with Paul Heyman later. Who knows what that man will say when he has a live microphone in his hand. We then return from the break and it is a superb match, great heat, absolutely fantastic, and this is almost just for bragging rights. Of course, finishing first means that you'll face the team who finished second in the other block, so that maybe gives you an advantage, but with how close Motor City Machine Guns, Beer Money and LAX have been, there's not that much of a difference. So a large part of this, as I say, is the bragging rights, and it is Chris Hero, who was head and shoulders above everybody else apparently, defeating the weak link in the match, Charlie Haas, with an emerald elbow, meaning that the Kings of Wrestling have topped their group. So we're not going to know the exact final four matches until just before the pay-per-view, but an 83 from Castagnoli, a 92 from Chris Hero, an 82 from Shelton Benjamin. Of course, Haas is some way below that, but it still brings us out at an 84. Great chemistry, got the crowd buzzing. Could not have asked more from that main event. Absolutely brilliant. Hero and Castagnoli stand tall as the final standings confirm them as first place in Block A. WGTT have also qualified. They were undefeated going into this match, so just a few days before No Surrender, it's not a good thing to be losing such a big match when, theoretically, they could have to face the Kings of Wrestling in the final in just a few days. While there is still a match to go, pride is all that is left to play for Creed and Dutt and Steen and London. On Block B, however, Beer Money require at least 1 point against Colt Cabana and Eric Young. They'll be confident of doing that and more this week on Evolve, it has to be said. This tag team division is incredible. It's going to be another brilliant episode of Impact, but we do have that final segment to come back to, and that's a 95. So this is again going to be one of the best Impacts we've ever done, I feel. Paul Heyman stands in the ring and he brings out CM Punk. Punk, we've been promoted throughout the night, has these demands that he's going to make to Paul Heyman. Obviously, we expect he's going to make things as difficult as possible. He'll agree to an unsanctioned fight against Kurt Angle at No Surrender, but he's going to get something back in return. Once in the ring, Punk stops Heyman from trying to get this underway in any formal manner, saying that Kurt Angle needs to be out here to hear what he has to say. He's not going to repeat himself to both of them. Kurt Angle comes out from the back, with Punk warning that if he lays a hand on him tonight, then he walks away from this fight. No discussion, no negotiation, it simply doesn't happen, and he knows that Angle doesn't want that. Surely he can wait 72 hours to get his hands on the voice of the voiceless. CM Punk is just putting over further and further throughout this promo the power and control he has over the situation. He says that he can tell that Kurt will do anything for this fight, and that puts pressure on Paul Heyman to agree to whatever he has to say. So he's even playing the two of them off against each other. The idea of Punk as this master manipulator who's got everybody in the palm of his hands. CM Punk says there is nothing that TNA can offer him, but after he beats Kurt Angle in this unsanctioned fight, his next match will take place in an ROH ring, specifically at Glory by Honor, that pay-per-view that is being billed as ROH versus TNA 24 hours before Bound for Glory, and he knows that a show in a Ring of Honor ring will absolutely blow the water out of whatever they put on for Bound for Glory and the current state of the Ring of Honor World Championship. Samoa Joe may have had it in his possession, but AJ Styles is still the Ring of Honor World Champion, but he has been an embarrassment to that title because he hasn't been able to show his face. A World Champion has to be ready to fight whenever it happens, so Punk has a proposition. Either AJ Styles returns at Glory by Honor and faces CM Punk one-on-one with that title on the line, or Paul Heyman shows up at that show, and at the very end of ROH versus TNA, he hands CM Punk the title and crowns him the world champion. The choice is Paul Heyman's. All he has to do is make CM Punk versus AJ Styles for Glory by Honor, and he'll agree to fight Kurt Angle at his pay-per-view this Sunday. Paul looks to Kurt, who nods. He's encouraging it, of course, but there is part of Paul Heyman that's not sure. AJ is injured. We don't know his condition. We don't know whether he'll be in any way fit to compete, and if he isn't, that means that Paul Heyman will have to physically hand the Ring of Honor World Championship to CM Punk. With that said, Heyman agrees, and the fight is confirmed for this Sunday. Punk leaves the ring, happy to have got exactly what he wanted, and a huge match confirmed, not only for No Surrender, but also for Glory by Honor. What a big couple of months that are coming up, and basically us keep hitting it out of the park with these incredible impacts is only going to help out we go. I'm going to go into Evolve very soon, but I am first just going to look at where this ranks, because we're just putting on all-time impacts here. I just love the idea that there's been that noticeable stark increase, and how much praise the tag teams are going to be getting, how much spotlight this puts on how good our tag team division is, and quite simply, there isn't a division anything like it in the world. It has to be said, quite possibly the best tag team division ever assembled. And with Punk, Heyman, Angle, all these top stars also cutting promos, we have 3 of our best 4 shows being impacts from September 2011. The other one is in 18th, so even that was a really good show, and every show has been over 80, so I'm just so happy with how everything's going at the minute. Bound for Glory is still there at the top, which I'm happy about. I wouldn't want Impact to be taking the top spot from Bound for Glory. What I do want is for Bound for Glory 2011 to take that top spot, and with the main event and a few matches I've got in mind, I definitely think that's possible. With that said, we of course still have Evolve before No Surrender, so I will now go into that. And the show begins with a video package recapping the Bound for Glory tag team series so far. We promote tonight, of course, the key thing that we need to know really is that it's Beer Money versus Eric Young and Colt Cabana in our main event, and Beer Money need 1 point to qualify against a team who thus far have 0 points in the tournament. And Cabana and Eric Young promote that main event but don't do well, as they both struggle when going off script, so not bouncing off each other very well. They talk about their respect for LAX and Beer Money, and people are saying that they've got nothing to fight for, but they are still fighting not only for the integrity of this series, they don't want to be accused of just letting Beer Money walk into that Final Four, but also for their own pride. Neither of them are happy with their performances, of course, but even if it's just 1 point, they don't want to end this series on 0 points. El Generico walks in and he supports these guys. He's got a match against Rhett Titus later on, but he wants to see Cabana and Eric Young do themselves proud. Of course, Young was the replacement for the injured El Generico when he was ruled out of the series. Steen and London then defeat Creed and Dutt in 10 minutes and 36. Creed was pinned by Steen, not a foreign object but a poke to the eye before a package pile driver, and it does mean that Steen and London finished third. It's a match that didn't really have any reason to happen, but that doesn't stop it being a decent match, and London and Steen head off post-match. There's no celebrations, despite it being a match that under any other circumstances would be a solid victory. They finished third and they aren't happy about that. They have higher standards. We then see a promo from Beer Money, who put over the stakes of our main event. They can't look beyond Cabana and Eric Young, even though that Final Four is just around the corner at No Surrender. LAX then walk in and wish them good luck. May the best team qualify, and they'll be keeping an eye on them in case of any tiebreaker. So maybe just ramping up the pressure, a little bit of gamesmanship from Homicide and Hernandez there. And Beer Money, of course, know how important this match is. They don't need anybody else telling them. We then get a promo from the new Evolve champion, who shows footage of his victory, and there's one person that he couldn't have done this without. We think he's perhaps referring to Samoa Joe, who had a very, very decisive involvement in the match, but he says it's Maria. He feels that now that he's a champion, now he's proved himself to her, it's time for him to ask her something. Before he can, however, Desmond Wolfe comes down, Jay Lethal rolls out the ring, Maria also escapes, and they head up the ramp. We then get a fired up, angry promo from Desmond Wolfe. He is going to take that title back, and he is going to make Jay Lethal suffer in the process, so gaining heat to the storyline, with Jay Lethal doing a masterful job of improvising, and that's a really good segment. Delighted with that, and of course, Wolfe isn't going to let what happened to him last week lie. He's got issue now with Jay Lethal and with Samoa Joe. The second match of the night sees Rhett Titus defeated by El Generico in 7 minutes and 25 with a haluva kick. Given that El Generico has had a little bit of time off, we wanted to give him a match just before the pay-per-view, hopefully build a bit of momentum, maybe shake off a little bit of ring rust, and he does that with a decisive victory over Rhett Titus. After the match, Kenny King, who basically failed in his attempts to have any impact on the match, he looks to make up for that. Of course, Tyler Black doesn't want El Generico at 100% going into this pay-per-view, but actually it backfires as he is dropped with a Blue Thunder bomb. El Generico, very happy, stood tall, finger pointing up to the sky, and he is ready for Tyler Black this Sunday. LAX are then interviewed before the main event, but confirmed that they won't be going out. There's been some talk they might join commentary, but they want to keep this fair. They've come to the show to maybe add that little bit of pressure, but they're not going to take it too far as we head into that main event. It's decent, what you'd expect from these two, I suppose, but Beer Money defeat Cabana and Eric Young in 11 minutes and 56. There's a little bit of a tease that Cabana and El Generico could pick up the huge upset here. We of course want to create some emotion and drama in the final match of the initial stage of this Bound for Glory Tag Team Series, but it is a decisive and clean victory for Beer Money in the end, stomping in Cabana after the DWI. The Bound for Glory Tag Team Series Block B has now finished, with Beer Money finishing top. Kings of Wrestling finished top of their group, so it'll be the Kings of Wrestling versus the Motor City Machine Guns and Beer Money versus WGTT. The winners of those two matches will then face in the very, very final of the Bound for Glory Tag Team Series, the winner going on to face American Wolves at Bound for Glory, getting the crowd hotter. It's okay, this isn't going to be a great show, but Beer Money stand tall. We've said who is in the final four, no need to go through that again, and it's a decent show. 69, like I've said, I'm not as worried about the Evolve ratings. Of course we don't like losing popularity, but it's more to me about getting different people on screen. We did originally plan to have Sarah Del Rey defeat Sarita on that show, so I'll have to either put that on next week or maybe on Impact, because I decided that Generico's return, he just showed up, then was given a title shot. I felt like he needed to get back in the ring and pick up a decisive win, just to remind people before this pay-per-view how good of a competitor he is, and that he is worthy of an X Division Championship shot. Mia Yim gone, of course. Mickey James getting credit from Scott D'Amore. Decent viewing figures, I'm sure. I don't really follow that anymore. And Santana Garrett has also moved on. But that's the show done. The build to No Surrender, which in terms of our ratings, this has been the best build to any pay-per-view that we've done. I'm sure that a lot of our storylines are in a good position going into this show, and that means, well, actually some of them look pretty bad, but there's enough decently rated storylines going in that I do hope that this pay-per-view can deliver on a high level. It deserves it after the build that it's got, and of course we see the card on screen there. It's a stacked pay-per-view, so big expectations. Hopefully you'll join me for that. Thank you for watching this episode, and the final pay-per-view before Bound for Glory coming next time.